And one of the great things I get to do is work with our alumni and other community members, such as yourselves, who are interested in connecting with our scholars. So I really, really do feel fortunate to be in this role, and I'm really, really excited that you all decided to be a part of this mentor program and mentor our students. So thank you for taking your lunch hour to be with us today. So really quick, let's talk. We're going to talk, just give you a little bit of background of HSF. Some of you are very familiar with us. Some of you may not be as familiar. So just spend 2 minutes talking about that. We'll do a sort of macro level view of Mentor Match. So sort of what are the objectives? How's the program structured? And then we'll get into sort of a little bit more of the details in the actual mentoring using the iMentor system, which is sort of the web-based platform that we use for our mentor program. We'll talk a little bit about what the curriculum is going to look like, and then we'll end with some tips for fostering a good relationship with your mentee. So really briefly, HSF was founded in 1975, which means we are 38. We turned 38 this summer, actually. And in that time, we raised over $400 million in scholarships, which is, I think, what we're sort of known for. HSF is the organization that gives scholarships, right? 400 million, as I said, to just over 57,000 students. So that means our alumni network is 57,000 strong. What I think a lot of folks may not know about us as much is that, we have a full range of programs that we offer for students. Mentor Match is one example of that. That's scholars, but we also do a lot of sort of outreach programs to help educate sort of middle school and high school students and family about the college going process, getting them excited about college. Wells Fargo has been a great partner in many of those programs. Have had the opportunity to meet sort of Martine and Benigno and others at our Youth Leadership Institute this summer, and so we have lots of other programs that we do in addition to the scholarship support that we've been giving students for many years. But Mentor Match in particular then has a few goals with this program. One is just sort of very simply to connect college students with college grads. I mean, a large percentage of our scholars are first generation in their family to go to college, and so we feel sort of just connecting them with somebody who has been through that process is really, really important. So this is one way we try to do that. The other is to sort of help build these college survival skills, right? So the program you'll see is structured in a way that allows for sort of relationship building and some sort of just fun conversations, and then other conversations are centered around really building competencies that students need, like time management or exploring their majors, different, dealing with stress, so sort of different, more sort of skill building type activities. And the next is to sort of just build the students' networks. We're very fortunate in that our scholars are really sort of the top Latino students in the country, so oftentimes, so sometimes they may not need help with sort of, say, academics, but again, they're, often first in their family to go to college, and so sort of building that network of professionals and folks they can call on for support with different things as it relates to their college career or their, career beyond that is really important. And so this is a way we sort of help build that network for students, and then also just building a greater sense of connectedness to HSF. From the college perspective, we want to be more than just an organization that, gives them a check at the beginning of the school year. We want to be a support system. We want to build a community. And so this is one way we start to do that. And then from sort of our alumni and volunteer perspective, we also want you to feel connected to the organization and to feel connected to our scholars. And so that's one way we try to do that. So who participates in Mentor Match? From the mentor perspective, we do reach out to our alumni quite a bit to participate in the program and other college grads. So sort of Wells Fargo Latin Connection is a great example of folks who may or may not be alums, but you're professionals, you've sort of earned your degree, you know what it's like to go through that process, and you care deeply about Latino students in college and sort of increasing that college graduation rate. And so that's who our mentor base is. And then our mentees are largely HSF scholars, so they've received a scholarship from HSF. They may also be scholars, so HSF does the sort of Latino administration and outreach for the GMS program, and so we invite those scholars to also join our community. And then our HSF Scholar chapter members. So we have just under 40 scholar chapters throughout the country, and what those are student-based at college campuses who work on different things. Some of them are sort of just social, connecting to other students on campus, and others are sort of more professional development activities. But so those are started typically by our scholars, but then they kind of just grow organically where other students are also invited to be a part of the club. So they may not have an HSF scholarship, but they sort of become a part of the HSF family by through their membership in the HSF Scholar chapter. So those are our mentees. Alex, any questions, Trina? Okay, awesome. So our mentors, I'm going to just spend a couple of minutes talking about the screening process. I know some of you have already started, others may not have started yet, but we do have what's called a mentor intake form, which is really just, it's a web-based form that we ask our mentors to complete, and that just gives us the information that we then use to make the matching later, which we'll talk about the matching process a little bit later, but it is a little lengthy. It probably take you 20 to 30 minutes to complete. You can sort of save a page. Quick tip, you can save if you complete a full page, you can save, but it won't save sort of if you're in the middle of the page. So if you do need to step away, make sure you complete the full page, hit save, and then you can kind of move on to the next. But that's sort of the first screening process, right? Is we ask you to take those 20 to 30 minutes to complete that form. Does ask lots of questions, but that's then, as I said, what we use to sort of make the matches. And the students fill out a very similar form. And then there's a quick background check. It's a web-based system. I'll talk more detail about that later, but there is a background check process. And then there's this training. So that's pretty much sort of the screening process, is those 3 steps. And then you'll receive a confirmation email and then a follow-up phone call as well, just sort of once your match has been made, just confirming that match and sort of just, answering any questions that you might have. And if for some reason, I put on here, y'all should, I think the numbers are working out quite nicely, but we do matches twice a semester. And so sometimes if the numbers don't quite work out very well, we might hold an application and then do the match and match them up sort of the next cycle. When that's necessary, but I think this semester the numbers are working out really nicely, so that shouldn't be an issue. So the matching process. So really quickly, these are all things we consider: sort of gender, we do same-sex matches, career experience and interest, academic experience and interest, personal experiences, characteristics, and location. So there's a couple of these that I did want to spend a little bit of time on. One is location. So sort of nationally, what we're trying to do is, whenever possible, is connect the students with the local match, or within their region at least, so that we still want it to be a good match, and so there still has to be some commonalities in these other areas like academic, personal experiences, characteristics, or whatnot. So sort of the first priority, or the first sort of the location, is given a little bit more weight, and that we do want to make local matches whenever possible. But given that our students and our mentors are sort of all over the country, what we didn't want to do is exclude a mentor or a student who was in an area maybe where we didn't have too many folks sign up, or we maybe didn't have anybody sign up. We have kids, at some private schools kind of in the middle of nowhere, really great schools. But we didn't want to exclude them, and so we do make sort of what we call long distance matches, and we've done that in the past as well, and so we've seen good success in sort of both of those, long distance and sort of local matches. Really, I think what it comes down to is sort of those other factors in terms of having at least a few things in common that you can start to build a relationship from, and then really just the effort that that both the mentor and the mentee put into the relationship. So I'd say effort is probably a better predictor of success in terms of the match, more so than location. But we do realize that lots of mentees and mentors want that face-to-face interaction, and so we're trying our best to make that possible for a lot of our matches, for most of our matches. Okay, so I don't see any questions from Alex. I'm going to move right along. So mentor to-dos. So this is sort of the overall structure of the program a little bit. There is an email curriculum, and so it's a web-based mentor program, and it's really built around sort of knowing that students are very, very busy. I mean, you might remember what it's like to be a college student. Maybe you were really involved in student organizations, you had your classes, maybe you had a part-time job, so it can be a really, really busy time. And likewise, our mentors are very sort of busy folks. And so it's really built around knowing that, okay, students and mentors are busy. How can we sort of maximize the interaction and still sort of build this really really great relationship. And so it's an email-based curriculum. You'll get these bi-weekly email prompts, and so we'll sort of help guide the conversation, and give you those prompts. And as I said before, it's a sort of combination of relationship building prompts. So some of them are just like, hey, describe, tell me about yourself, and we'll look at some examples a little later actually. And others are those sort of skill building prompts we talked about a little bit. Um, so the quarterly meetings. So if you have a local match, then we ask that you meet with your mentee in person once a quarter. If the person is not a local match, you can meet sort of via Skype, FaceTime, GChat, Google Hang. I know there's lots of sort of video conferencing technology these days, so whichever you prefer, we encourage you to use that to sort of have a talk with your mentee. Question they ask, you request a non-local match? Absolutely. So when you complete your mentor intake form, there's a box that sort of towards the end that's more of a narrative. Most of the boxes are sort of just check boxes, but there is one area where it's more narrative, and that asks sort of, is there anything else we should know or anything else you'd like to share for us to consider when making your match? And so that's an area where you can sort of list any preferences. I can ask you to sort of keep an open mind and be flexible to that. So just knowing that, we have students from all over the country and mentors from all over the country, and you sort of never know what the composition of each of those groups is going to look like. So I ask that you keep an open mind and know that we'll do our very best to find you sort of the best match. And so that might be in your area, and it might not be in your area. It just sort of depends on what the composition of those groups look like. But if you would prefer sort of a long distance match, you can definitely put that in that box, and then we'll certainly take that into consideration when we're sort of making those matches. And then last sort of mentor to do is the evaluations. There is just 3 a year, so we try to keep them short and to the point, and only do 3 sort of at the beginning, at the middle, and then at the end of the program. The mid-year survey is really more a checkpoint. We want to know how things are going with your mentee, how's the relationship coming along. And then the pre and end are really more sort of programmatic evaluations. So we want to know, what things did you like, what things did you not like, what are the prompts like, how are your meetings going, what can we do to make it better. So this is only the 3rd year of Mentor Match program. The first couple of years were sort of a much smaller sort of test groups. So this is the first year that we're really opening it up to all of our scholars and opening it up to all of our alumni. So it's nice to see the program growing. With that said, though, there's plenty of room for improvement, and we do that's very much sort of the culture of HSF now, is continuous improvement and constantly evaluating what we're doing and ways to make it better. And so we do take those evaluations into consideration. We review them very carefully, and sort of the tweaks that have been made to the program thus far have in large part come as a result of feedback we've gotten from both mentors and students. So I know they're not always the most fun thing to fill out, but I do ask that you please take the time to do those when you get them, because we rely on that feedback. We want to know, what can we do better, what do you like, what should we keep, what can we make stronger, and that's how we get that information. So here's the timeline. So sort of mentors and mentees can sort of complete that intake form and sign up for the program, throughout the year. And then once you get paired up with your mentee, that email communication and your quarterly meetings go on throughout the year. I know sort of as a test, we said this was something we would do for this school year. So with the Wells Fargo the Wells Fargo mentors. I will say, so for Mentor Match sort of nationally, so the overall program is we ask our students and our mentees to make a minimum of 1-year commitment, but matches are encouraged to stay together sort of as long as they'd like. So sort of the default is they'll remain in the program together, and only when sort of a mentor needs to exit or a student needs to exit, or maybe the pair wants to exit for one reason or another, maybe a student's graduating, or a student is going to be really busy next semester or whatnot, then they can let us know, and we'll sort of unmatch them and rematch if necessary, or remove them from the program. But I know sort of what we talked about with Benigno originally was for you all to do this school year, and then we'll take it from there. So hopefully you have a great experience and you'll want to continue. But we'll certainly be evaluating that throughout the year. But then, so just overall, the nationally sort of screening, training, and matching happens twice a semester. So although people can sign up at any time, just so that we sort of start to collect that information and get people through background and start, just doing some of those more admin tasks and getting those out of the way. At any time, this training and the screening and this matching process that happens is done twice a year. So now we're sort of at the tail end of that, and then we'll pick it back up again in January and sort of do new matches again in February, which is really nice. In the past, we only did this once a year, which would be sort of now. So if any student that didn't, for some reason, didn't hear about it, or a mentor didn't hear about it until a little later, they'd have to wait sort of until the next school year to be able to start in the program. So we're really happy that this year we sort of added one more entry point into the program so that students and mentors don't have to wait a whole year to be in the program again. So that was sort of the macro level view part. I'm going to just pause here and see if there's any questions before I get into sort of more of the nitty gritty sort of signing into the system and how do you send an email and all of that fun stuff. I'm looking at Alex. No question? Okay, great. So it looks like Alex is doing a really great job of addressing your questions. Doesn't look like we have anything. Okay. Looks like we do have a question coming in, so I'll wait just a couple of minutes. And I just did a time check. It looks like we're running right on schedule, so.
Mentors list a preference for students from their alma mater?
Can mentors list a preference for students from their alma mater was the question. You can list any preference that you may have. It might be somebody in your sort of field or career who's interested in that, somebody from your alma mater. All of those things you could list in that narrative, and if something comes up after you've submitted that already, you can email it to me. And again, we'll take all of those things into consideration when we're making the match. I just can't sort of, can't guarantee that they'll be a student from your alma mater, or that, it kind of just depends on sort of what students, which are the students that sign up for the program and what their characteristics are. But we'll certainly, it's good that we know those, and so because those little bits of information are sort of what might help us determine. If I have one student and 3 potential matches, if Benigno says, I'd like somebody from MIT, and that student is from MIT, then that might be the thing that says, okay, let's pair them up with Benigno versus say the other 2, or so yeah. So I encourage you, if there's any any preferences, any just kind of fun things that you want to share about yourself that might be helpful to us in the matching process, do feel free to share on that application. And as I said, we'll do our best to honor those requests. But I will say sort of disclaimers that we can't sort of guarantee that, because as I said, it sort of just depends on what that particular sort of group of kids that we're matching that semester, what they look like. So I think, are we good, Alex? Any more questions? No? Okay, awesome. So I think we're doing good. As I said, we're right on time. So now we're just going to get a little bit more into the details. So as I mentioned before, there is this mentor intake form that if you haven't received a link to it, you will get it very soon. So when you go to that page, it looks like this. And so you'll, the first time you come to this page is hsf.imentorinteractive.org. So you'll click here, they're not registered yet, and you'll click the mentor box. And so I'm not going to go through a screenshot of each intake form. It's pretty self-explanatory, it's pretty user-friendly, but it'll then take you through that process. Once you, we did get a question as to how do you modify an intake form. It's not, the system, I'll be honest, isn't very sort of user-friendly when you want to make changes. But I have administrator access, so if there's anything you need to change or add, just shoot me an email with that information and I can go in and update that for you. So once sort of the intake application has been submitted, it sort of is kind of set in stone until we match you up with somebody, and then you'll have sort of access again to a different part of the system. But this is what that intake form looks like. And you can make, I will say you can make changes up until the time you sort of submit the form. So when you save a page, you can go back to that page and make some changes. But once you submit it, it's sort of gone off into cyberspace. But I can, as I said, I can make those changes for you. Just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to do that. So once you've submitted that, then, and I sort of check those about every other day to see if we have any new applications. And then what you'll get is it's a personalized link to the background check form. I will say, I will have to apologize for this. I have a big red arrow here. The vendor that we use is great. They're fast. They're, you know, have a very secure system, but it's sort of meant as more of a pre-background check. So sort of this language here, pre-employment background check, is sort of hard coded into the system, and they can't change that for us. So you can just ignore. You'll get a personalized message from me. It looks a little different than this now. I've actually updated since we did this training, but you'll get a personalized message here. It'll have your name on it, actually. So in this case, it has my name, but it'll have your name and it'll give you instructions. And then you can just, and in that instructions, it'll remind you to disregard sort of the bottom portion of that talks about sort of having all of this information here ready, the employment history, education history. We don't check any of that. You'll get this personalized link. You'll click it, and it'll take you to a form that looks like this. So really basic, you know, it'll take you 2 minutes to complete it. It's really just your name, social, date of birth, and your address, and that's it. So once you get that, I would ask that if you complete that, please, as soon as possible, only because that link is only live for 7 days upon receipt. And then also we can't match you until this has been processed. So be sure you do that as soon as you get it. But just so that you don't sort of get scared that it is, you'll get the form. It'll look like this. It comes from Backgrounds Online. And it's just the very basic, you know, name, social, date of birth, street, and address. And as I said, it's a personalized link and it's only active for 7 days. So if you can do that as soon as you get it, that would be great. And then the third step is just to attend the training, which you've done already today. Also, so going back to this, it asks if the social is required. For this one, it is, because we do sort of just national criminal. There's 3 sort of national databases that we check, and they do need sort of all that information to run that. So we try to keep it down to just the sort of critical required information, and took out a lot of the fluff. But that's all. Your social is one of those things that is required in order to run those background checks. So as I said, the mentor training is sort of the third step. You know, not necessarily in that order. So you can come to training, for example, maybe before you've completed some of the other processes, but that is a part of the process. So once you've done those 3 things, then you'll have access again to get into iMentor Interactive, this time as a member now. So you'll have, when you log back into iMentor now, you can go to member sign in and use your username and password, and it'll be the same username and password that you set up during your intake form. So it'll take you then to a screen that looks like this. So this is your email screen, and it's really basic. You know, it's much like many email systems that you've used in the past. So you'll have all of your emails here. When you're ready to compose a new email, you'll click here, and it'll take you to a page that looks like this. So this area here is where you access your prompts. And so if you look at the writing prompts here, sorry, I'll pause. I'll take your question. How do I get the form link resent? You can just shoot me an email and I can resend that to you. At the very end of the presentation, I'll put up a slide with my contact info, so you guys can, any questions regarding, you know, any of the forms or anything regarding the program, you guys feel free to contact me. But I'll post that at the end of today's training. Oops. Okay, so back to this. So writing prompts. You'll see sort of in here you'll see a preview of the prompt. So you won't be able to see the full thing just yet. So to see the full thing, you just click here. It says see full prompt, and you'll be able to see all of it. If you ever want to access a previous prompt, you go to here, table of contents, and you can go back to sort of previous sessions. I should also say, so the prompts are every 2 weeks, and they're designed for the mentee to answer first. And what the mentees were asked during their training is to try to be sure that they answer that sort of within the first week of getting it. That way it gives you a week to sort of read that and respond as well. And again, I did mention that they're bi-weekly, but part of them, they used to be weekly actually. So part of the reason we switched to bi-weekly was really to focus on sort of the quality of the interaction versus the quantity. So having sort of one well thought out email every 2 weeks we feel is better than sort of rushing through a weekly email. And it also gives you the flexibility to sort of talk to your mentee about anything else that comes up, anything that you initiate that you'd like to talk about, or anything that they initiate that they'd like to talk about. Um, it sort of gives you a little more freedom to do that versus in the past it was sort of every week and it was really, really structured. And so we do want to structure that and so that we can sort of help build the relationships and so that we're also talking to those students about some of those, building some of those competencies that we know are important to college success. But we also wanted to give you sort of some breathing room to talk about, whatever it is that's on your mind, whatever it is that's on your mentee's mind. So sorry, that's kind of a sidebar, but so back to your prompt. So it's every 2 weeks. So you'll see here the prompt. That's pretty much it. Other than that, it works, just like any other email system you use. Here's where you would compose the body of your email. It has little emoticons for you to use, smiley faces or whatnot. What we told the students is that it doesn't have to be a very sort of formal email. It's really more about building a good relationship. And so we said if they want to put a smiley face, we got the question actually was, can we use smiley faces and exclamation points? And we told them absolutely. So you may see a few of those. Feel free to use them as well. And it also does give you the ability to attach. So I would encourage you, to use that. It may not sort of ask you to do that on the prompt, but if say that when you get a question about sort of where you're from or where you grew up, feel free to attach a picture, maybe sort of you and your family or your old hometown or sort of where you work now, or if it's a prompt say about resume building, you can attach maybe your latest resume or if you have an example of something, maybe that's your student have a good example of a career that they are interested in. You can do that as well. So we encourage you to do that. None of the prompts sort of request for you or ask you to attach things, but when it makes sense to do so, or you have something fun to share or something useful to share, I would encourage you to use that feature. So here, what I really wanted to stress on this slide was really the importance of sort of using that web-based system. One of the things that we got is feedback that we're taking into consideration and sort of figuring out how we can make it a little more user-friendly for next year is that it's not, so iMentor Interactive doesn't really interact with your phone very well. So it's not, I'm sure there's a technical term for this, but it's not smartphone friendly. And so so sometimes one of the challenges that we had on our end then was that sometimes the communication was happening either directly from sort of people's Gmails or other forms of communication sort of outside the system. And so I certainly don't, want to discourage you from reaching out to your mentee, sort of if it's easier to sort of text or email about something right away. But when doing your prompts, I really do encourage you to do that in the system so that allows us to sort of measure sort of success and be proactive in that. So one of the useful things about the system is that it allows me to see, for example, I can look at a 2-week session and see that 70% and 80% of mentees, responded or something like that, or maybe hopefully it's 100 and 100. But if it's not, it allows me to see that it's not, and it allows me to see who has and who hasn't responded, and then we can be proactive so that if your mentee, for example, their first week has sort of passed and they haven't responded to their prompt, then we can send them little text message reminders, email, maybe give them a call and remind them to do that. And likewise, we can be, helpful to the mentees. And if a mentor doesn't respond, then, we can do the same thing. So I will say that by virtue of being in this program, you do give me permission to occasionally give you a friendly nudge if that week is a busy week and you haven't had a chance to respond yet. We will sort of give you little reminders outside of the system just so that, we really, really want to have 100% participation every 2-week session as much as possible. It's sort of that consistent presence that that's going to make the match successful, and so we want to be helpful. And then on the flip side as well, maybe you are communicating and you are responding, but because you didn't do it in the iMentor system, it looks like you haven't, and then you're going to have me bugging you when it's not. So please do use the system, and it also allows to sort of evaluate prompts as well, and then look for trends. Maybe there's certain prompts that, certain topics that aren't as well responded to as others, those sorts of things. So it just goes back to sort of evaluation and measuring and trying to, constantly make things better. So I do ask that you sort of stick to the system whenever possible. And as I said, those prompts will be relationship and skill building. And also not everybody is going to have the same prompts. So all of you have sort of signed up as a group, but you may get placed, some of you may have freshmen, some of you may have seniors. And so we do make the curriculum relevant to the year in college that the student is. So, you may not all have the same prompt that week. It'll be, if you have a student in a different grade, it is going to be different, because sort of what a senior needs to be talking about is going to be a lot different than what a freshman needs, and we want to make sure that we stay sort of fresh and current and relevant to the students. Looks like we had one more question. Is there a protocol with personal issues that are brought up? There is actually, so I'll address that in the frequently asked questions, so we'll get to that, but I'll keep it here just in case we don't. So this is just to give you an example, and this is another reason why I feel like I wouldn't really recommend sort of responding from your phone, is that the email prompts aren't really designed to be sort of something that you respond to in 2 to 3 minutes, during your lunch break or something like that. They really are, they're kind of lengthy, and you'll see that. Not lengthy. It's good content, so I shouldn't say lengthy. Maybe that's not the best word, but it is sort of something that will require some thought on your part in putting sort of your answer together. And so this is an example of what a mentor email might look like, or prompt might look like. So in general, you'll get sort of a tip or sort of introductory paragraph. This one is more an example of a relationship building type prompt that you would get. So, so it's just encouraging you to have fun and be yourself, and kind of giving you some tips here. And then we'll sort of guide you through your email. So in this case, for example, paragraph 1 is asking you to introduce yourself to your mentee. So, the first bullet, for example, says introduce yourself, including where you grew up and where you live now. And so here's kind of where, I would suggest you, as I said, put some thought into your responses. And I can answer this in saying, my name's Anaí. I grew up in Avondale, Arizona, and now I live in, Los Angeles. I could also say that, my name's Anaí, and I grew up in a little town outside of Avondale called Las Ligas, where there was, lots of other, practically only Mexicans around, and my street, maybe folks in my neighborhood didn't have a lot of money, but everybody knew each other, and we looked out for each other. And now I live, in Playa del Rey, and I love it. I'm right near the beach, et cetera, right? So, there's different ways you can answer these. You can be sort of very just to the point, or you can really, as the thing, have fun and be yourself, and really take the time to give your mentee some insight. And I would encourage you to do that, because the more you do that, the more your mentee is likely to do that. And so I would just ask you that you sort of model what you'd like to see in your mentee, and be thorough and thoughtful in your responses. So it gives you a couple more bullets as to sort of how to introduce yourself. Paragraph 2 says keep the conversation going by responding to what your mentee said, sort of asking you to share your impressions. What is there something you'd like to know more about? So as I said, the prompts are designed for your mentee to respond first. So almost always there'll be a section for you to sort of read and sort of take it all in, and then respond to what the mentee said. And then this last one is just kind of some more fun stuff. So complete the statements for mentee. 3 words that best describe me are: if I could travel to any place in the world, it would be. So again, this is more an example of that relationship building prompt. So as I said, it's not something that will take you a full day to write. But, it's something that maybe you could complete in 5 minutes, but I wouldn't suggest that. As I said, really take the time to craft a good email, and not that, sort of technically correct email, but that you're really being yourself, you're sharing and that you're being open. Because as I said, the more you do that, the more your mentee is likely to do that. So this is an example of what the mentees might get on their end. And this is one that's maybe sort of borderline, a little bit of both, but maybe more in the skill building category. And this one's asking the mentee to sort of think about choosing a college major and what's important to them. So they also get sort of a tip slash, oops, sorry about that. Tip slash introductory paragraph. But then it's a very similar process. So paragraph 1, it's asking them to respond to your last email and answer any questions and, to let you know what's happened since their last email. And then paragraph 2 is asking them to think about sort of what they're passionate about. So there's a paragraph there, and it's asking them sort of what in your life is important to you. Describe how your goals are connected to what's important to you. Are you applying for internships in a field that is related to what's important to you? So here it's just really asking them to think about what matters to them and how that and if there's a connection there between your goals and sort of their actions or those sorts of things. And then this one, they sort of get a freebie on paragraph 3. It's just asking them to sign off. But there's a lot of meat in paragraph 2, so I think that's fine. But that's sort of an example of what the prompts are going to look like. So as I said, there's different topics, so each session will be a little bit different, but that's sort of the basic format of those. And as I said, so these are meant to sort of touch on those competencies, those skills that we want them to build to help them build a relationship with you. But you are sort of just really want to reiterate, by no means limited to what's in the prompt. So if there's anything else that's on your mentee's mind, you're welcome to talk about that. And as I said, if you have other questions or something you want to share that hasn't sort of been asked yet in the prompts, you're welcome to do that as well. So throughout the program, you'll sort of, you'll have us here at HSF. It'll be myself, and we're hiring in the process of recruiting an intern, actually, so we'll have a little additional support. But we will send you your sort of biweekly and email prompts, and we'll send you, as I said, you may get a little nudge from me to be responsive if for some reason, you haven't been able to that session. And we'll also call you on occasion to discuss your match's progress. So again, that's not sort of a you're in trouble call. That's a, hey, we just want to know how things are going phone call. And so we want to, we'll be sure to kind of spread those out. But at some point, we want to check in with every match and just to see how things are going. And so we encourage you to sort of ask questions, check in with program staff. And I also want to encourage you to, definitely if you have any questions or concerns, you can come to us. But also if there was just sort of a really great moment that you had with your mentee, maybe you were able to really be helpful in a certain area, or, you saw a lot of growth in your mentee. Whatever the case might be, I do encourage you to share those as well. We love getting, emails like that as well. So it doesn't have to always be when there's an issue. You're welcome to, something great happened, let me know that, we love hearing those stories too. And then again, that you respond to the surveys that we send out. So here's a few questions that we've had sort of come up a lot the first couple of years. So the first is, what if my mentee doesn't email me first? So as I said, they're sort of designed, the program's sort of designed for them to go first. But if for some reason your student does it, I would encourage you to respond anyway, and just do the best you can. There might be parts of the prompt that will be a little more challenging to do because it'll ask you to sort of respond to something your mentee said. But just sort of do the best you can and respond. The mentor is sort of in the relationship, or I guess our students are young adults, but as a more mature adult in the relationship, we'll ask you to really be the driver of that relationship. And most students will be great and respond right away. Others will, others, it might take a little time for them to know that you're sort of really in it and you really are interested in building a relationship with them. And then also sort of, hindsight is 20/20, right? So maybe we've had the benefit of having a mentor in our lives. I hope that most of us have. I know I definitely have, and sort of we know the value of that. Or maybe we didn't have one, and we know what, now we understand how helpful it would have been to have one. But many students maybe haven't had that type of relationship in the past, and so they don't yet sort of understand how valuable that can be. And so sort of just ask that you be patient with them, and just you respond first and ask them questions and remind them to respond, and and I'll help you do the same and remind them as well. And we'll just keep working on them until we get them on board. But as I said, that's, most of our kids are excited, and that shouldn't be a problem. But if it is, just you continue to be the driver of that relationship and respond first. This is a really simple one, but it happens a lot. My email won't send what's wrong. Let me actually go back. I meant to point that out earlier, but if you go back here to the email prompt, so it doesn't, here's the subject line, and that doesn't automatically get filled in for you. So the prompt will be here. And actually, another tip is what a lot of folks found helpful was to copy and paste that prompt into the body of the email and then just sort of answer right in there. But some people found it helpful to have the questions sort of in the body versus kind of looking at it in the prompt and then responding. Whatever works for you is fine, but what the subject line doesn't get filled in for you. So make sure you we have lots of great partners out there who can help our students in a variety of ways, and so we'll be sure to connect them to whatever that resource is. So really, just when in doubt, or if you have a concern, or you're not sure if it's something you should address or not, anything like that, just let me know right away. And as I said, we'll take it from there, but we'll figure out what that student needs, and get them whatever resource they might need. Oh, we had one more question. Sorry about that. What days do the prompts get sent? So we'll send those on, they'll start on a Monday. So it'll be every other Monday. And sorry, is one of the prompts boundary setting and what they expect to get as part of the program? There is a prompt sort of at the beginning that talks about sort of what the nature of the relationship will be like, and that does talk about expectations. So you will have an opportunity to talk about that with your mentee, and it's actually sort of one of the first prompts. So thank you, good question. So lastly, I really just want to leave you with a few tips, and I think we've covered a lot of these kind of throughout. But first is to sort of take initiative and to don't take it personally. So again, and I don't want to. I hope I'm not a Debbie Downer here. Most of our kids are awesome and they're excited. But my job is to prepare you for a worst case scenario, right? So I would say, again, the initiative just refers to what I said before, as you as the sort of more mature adult being the driver of the relationship, and not taking things personally. So if your student is sort of short or maybe not being responsive, again, students may not understand sort of what the value of that relationship can be. And students are also oftentimes just really, really busy. And, sometimes we need to remind them lots of times to do something, as it relates to their scholarship, and that's associated with money. Money. So, there's times, and so don't take things personally. Just be patient, continue to communicate, avoid assumptions. We sort of never know what might be going on in that student's life in that particular time. And the last one is just, it's okay to say, I don't know. So, maybe there's your mentee, if the more comfortable they get with you, the more questions they might throw out at you. And by no means are you expected to sort of be the expert on every single topic out there. You're just another resource that can help them sort of find that answer. And so if we can be helpful, let us know here at the office, shoot us a question. We'll try to find, the information or the resource. Reach out to your own networks as well. So you're sort of really there to, as I said, you can help them maybe find the answer, but you don't have to know the answer to every question they might have. It's okay to say I don't know, but let's find out. So that's really all I had. As I said, there's my contact information. So if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to contact me. I don't know if there are any other questions. And I know Benigno, Jess, I'm sorry we couldn't get the audio up, but if there's anything you'd like to share, feel free to put it maybe in the chat. If there are any other questions, now time. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Oh yeah, great. So we're at 11. What time? 11:23 our time, Pacific time. So we can certainly stick around for a few more minutes and answer any questions we might have. But again, thank you so much for volunteering for the program and for making yourself available to our students. As I said, our students, they're bright, so academically, oftentimes they're sound, although some may need that support. But more so than that, they really just need a caring adult that's been through that process of going to college and sort of figuring out, what you want to do with your life. Some of us are still trying to figure that out, but your advice and your mentorship and your communication is really, really, something that they're really excited about. And I personally benefited from many mentors in my life. And so I'm so happy that we're able to help provide that for students. And I'm so happy that you all have signed up. The matches, when will the batches be made? So I'm hoping to do those this week and next week. So I know we'll have to sort of work together in terms of sort of getting the intake form and the background check form. So we sort of have done that already with the national partner, sort of other folks that have signed up. But I know we're on a slightly different timeline. So just because we sort of got the ball rolling a little bit after, but I'll work with you guys. We'll get through that really, really soon. So the first thing is really, I'll follow up with Benigno and Jess to make sure that you guys have access to the intake form. So that's really the first step, is to do that. So if you can do that as soon as possible, then we can, move the process along, and hopefully within 2 weeks have you guys matched up and ready to go. So how many students, we have questions, how many students and mentees are enrolled in the Bay Area and Denver? So Denver, we have about 13 students. And there may be more. So what I will say is, we have a staff person in Denver. Her name is Nancy, who's great and is really sort of on the ground with a lot of students there. So she gave me the names directly. So we have 13 that came in from students that she's personally been in touch with. There may be more in the system. And then from the Bay Area, I believe we have maybe a